Welcome to the Principles of Success. My name is Nathan, and this is Season 1, Episode 17. And today we are talking about discipline. But before we go into that, I have a question for you guys. I've been studying herbology a whole lot recently, and because health is such an important part of success, I was wondering if you guys would appreciate episodes where I talk about different fixes for common problems that we deal with, like low energy, lack of focus, digestive problems, stuff like that, and talk about specific herbs and what they do best and all sorts of other medicinal herbology stuff. If that would be of interest to you guys, let me know by messaging me on Instagram, because I use a distributor, so I don't actually see your comments very often. I have to go through a whole bunch of wacky stuff to get to your comments. So the best way to contact me is on Instagram, and my Instagram is Nathan Dickeson. Just make sure you spell it right. It's NathanDickeson. And just message me on Instagram. I'll respond and let me know what you guys think. There's quite a few of you watching this now, and I'm hoping that you guys are getting value out of this series in addition to the motivational series and the book review series. So just let me know. And now we're going to talk about discipline. And first thing I want to talk about is discipline equals freedom. Most people think that when you have a disciplined life, you have all of these arbitrary rules that you have to follow, and you can't live your life how you want it. The catch is, when you're disciplined, you can do what you want. So, for instance, I'll use having a bedtime as an example of discipline, which we'll talk about in a bit more in depth later. Most people think I'm not free to do what I want because I have a bedtime. But because I have a bedtime, I have higher energy, which allows me to do more stuff and accomplish more things. By having discipline of time, instead of scrolling through Instagram or TikTok for hours and hours on end, which I do actually still do, I'm not perfect, I'm able to get more done while you guys are wasting time because you're undisciplined. I say you guys, but I just said that I do it too. In fact, yesterday I spent 2 hours. I was sad. But when you're disciplined, you're able to cut out things that you don't even necessarily enjoy and focus on things that will either improve your life, or on things that you actually enjoy. By being disciplined and getting all of your work done, you're able to then go out and party, which is why, even though I don't want to do this today, I'm doing it because I know that in the summertime, I'm way more busy than I am in the wintertime. So, to make sure that this gets done and gets done properly, I want to try and get as much done as I can today, so that way throughout the summer, I have more time to do other things. That's why discipline brings you freedom. The next thing I want to talk about is willpower. Willpower is a finite resource. You can only resist your lower cognitive functions for so long. Basically, your brain has two parts. There's the rational thinker, the one that's like, yeah, I'm going to get up at 6 o'clock and go for a run because it's good for me. And then there's the base part of your brain, which is, I just want to feel good. That's essentially what that is. It's like, I don't want to be in danger. I don't want stress. I just want to feel good. And willpower is is us using energy to constantly battle between those two to try and get ourselves to go do stuff. The most disciplined people in the world don't necessarily have more willpower than the rest of us. It's just that they have removed the temptations that make it so it requires us to use our willpower to be able to stay disciplined. So for example, Eating healthy is a whole lot easier when you don't have the junk food in the house. So, if you want to eat junk food, you'll have to go to the store, buy it, come home. And because that's a whole lot more effort than going to the kitchen and getting it, a lot of times it's a whole lot easier to resist eating that junk food. Which is why it's also important to go to the store when you have plenty of willpower. That's why I actually recommend going to the store before you do anything else in the day, like in the morning. There was an interesting thing that I observed at Walmart. So, we all know that if you go to Walmart at like 3 in the morning, you get to see the most interesting of people. Well, I discovered that if you go to Walmart at 6 in the morning, which you can't do actually right now because of coronavirus stuff, but when I would go to Walmart at 6 in the morning, I would see a very different class of people than most people you would see at Walmart. I saw bodybuilders, I saw obviously businessmen, and all sorts of highly successful people, because that's when they shop at Walmart. I don't know if it's because they know that it's important to do that or because of other reasons. I just know that at 6 in the morning at Walmart, it's a different category of people than it is at other times. So that was just a little tangent, but by making sure you go to the store first in the morning, you have more willpower. Because as you go throughout your day, your willpower drops due to a thing called decision fatigue. As you make decisions, it drains energy, which is why it's important to quickly be decisive. Because if you're decisive, then it takes less of that decision fatigue or decision energy drain to make your decisions. So if you see point A and point B and you just pick, instead of pondering, that takes a whole lot less energy than it is to sit there and go, which one's better? A actually good example of this is a money principle that I'm planning on talking about, but I'll talk about it here in a little bit, is, are you really saving money by spending 20 minutes at Walmart examining each product, making sure which one saved you a couple of cents? Are you really saving time? Are you really saving energy by doing that stuff? Pick one and go. It's that simple. Because as you drain that decision fatigue, you have a limited number of good decisions throughout the day. And as you make decisions, and as you dwell on those decisions, it slowly drops. Which is why most dumb decisions are made at night. Because you're just out of rational thinking and out of willpower. So then, even though that you know it's bad for you, you'll still do it because you just don't have the energy to resist. But that goes into the caveat for that is there's no excuses. Don't accept any excuses for being undisciplined. It is a whole lot easier to be disciplined 100% of the time than it is to be disciplined 99% of the time. Because if there's that one excuse that is acceptable for why you should not do what your goals are, that excuse will always be there. So for example, gym. If you let the excuse of I'm too tired to go to the gym today be a reason that you don't go, that excuse will always be there, and it'll be so much harder, and you'll have to use willpower to make yourself go to the gym. Another thing I want to talk about, which I talked about a little bit earlier, is the low bar, high bar goals. So basically, it's a trick to get over that willpower and decision fatigue. Because if you're tired, it is a whole lot harder to convince your tired brain and your tired body to go to the gym and work out for 50 minutes. So that takes a whole lot more perceived energy to your brain, so it wants to do it that much less. But if you have a low bar, which is, I just have to go to the gym and do a couple workouts, then that is more palatable to your brain. And that goes into the next principle, which is the law of momentum. And once you've started, it's a whole lot easier to keep going. So you'll do those, your low bar might be, I have to go to the gym and do 1 set. Then I can go home. Well, once you're there, your brain is like, well, I'm already here. I can do a couple more. And that's why the low bar, high bar method works. As long as you should still aim for the high bar. That's your actual goal. But the low bar is kind of a psychological trick to get you moving, so that way once you start moving, then your body will be like, okay, maybe we'll go for that main goal. And by having a minimum goal that you hit every single day, you keep that consistency going. And consistency is the most important part when it comes to goals. There was something I just thought of. But make sure that your low bar is actually valid. Because if you don't think that if you set your low bar too high, your brain will be like, yeah, that's too much. But if you set it too low, it's not doing anything. And if you set it, but in your mind, you're saying that I'll never actually do that. I'll just go do the high bar, even though I have this low bar. When you do that, your brain still is, you might as well not have set the low bar in the first place. Because if you're consciously saying that I'll set this, but I'll never actually do this, I'll always just do the high bar, then you didn't set the low bar. You just said you set it, but your brain will still process it of, oh, I have to do that entire 50-minute workout. I don't know why I'm going with 50. I don't do 50. That's just the number that popped into my head. But make sure that when you set the low bar, that it's okay if you really are tired and you really do, or you really are busy, or you're really hungry or something, that it's okay to do that. And if you make it okay to do that, then this will work. And then back to the setting it too low and too high. That is something purely up to you. You have to figure that out. A couple push-ups is more than nothing, but a couple push-ups won't get you very far. 20 push-ups is a lot for some people who are really out of shape. For people who go to the gym regularly, 20 push-ups is a decent, really low bar. I can do 20 push-ups no matter how tired I am. So it's up to you. Figure out what your figure out at your lowest point what's the highest you can go, and then try and set it there. But make sure that it's at your lowest point, because if you're not super exhausted, or if you're not super exhausted, if you're even more exhausted than you planned on, that low bar that you set to your maximum low point may still be too high. So it's all a give and take, back to the principle of contradictions. Make sure that you figure out what works for you. What's the acceptable low bar that works? And this doesn't have to be gym. It can be nutrition, it can be goals, it can be writing, it can be podcast. My low bar for today was I have to shoot at least one. I really didn't want to shoot one, but my high bar for today is 12, because I want to get the whole summer done. So figure out what your low bar is, figure out what your high bar is. And you do this because if your willpower is drained, the low bar takes less willpower to initiate than the high bar. And you want to make sure that you are consistent and that you have no excuses because of decision fatigue. If you've already made that decision in the past, it's a whole lot easier to not do it now because you already decided that you weren't going to do it. So make sure that you figure out what you want, set goals for your higher self and your lower self, and make sure that you stay consistent with them and have no excuses. Anyway, I think I'm going to end that there for today, and I will see you all next week.